I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'm never going back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
Welcome to our music festival, Mark. Welcome to our music festival, Mark.
Anytime you can have a product that can truly change someone's life, I think that's an incredibly powerful product. I can't tell you how long we put into research and development for this. Most liquid carnitine is around 1,500 milligrams. We have a 2,000 milligram blend of 4 different types of liquid carnitine. We also have GBB, so you're actually going to be burning fat after you consume this product. This is going to make you sweat, this is going to make you not want to stop. You are going to perform like you've never performed before, and I can promise you that.
Never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curves, flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get 'em, but the law never will. Making their way the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the law will allow. Just a good old boy, wouldn't change if they could. Fighting the system like a true modern day Robin Hood.
The road to the Core Vintage Cup Series Championship begins tonight. Welcome to Racecraft TV's coverage of the Core Racing Vintage Cup Series live from the virtual Pocono Raceway. I'm your host, Joshua Lee, as always, alongside Jordan Hicks for the call of tonight's action. And Jordan, tonight we begin the journey to crowning a champion in a couple weeks' time at the Kansas Speedway. But tonight, the Pocono Raceway, a challenging track, only 3 turns, triangular shaped, the most unique course in all of oval racing. This is going to be an exciting kickoff to the playoffs.
You know, definitely that means these drivers are going to race super hard, so it's going to be an interesting few weeks here on Racecraft TV, so make sure you guys, you stay tuned because the action is just getting started.
And all unique tracks when we begin this playoffs and work our way through this playoffs as well. Of course, starting tonight here in Pocono, then we head to Phoenix next week, the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, to cap off the round, and we will eliminate a handful of drivers there as well. Then we make our way over to the Daytona International Speedway for some pack racing, then the Atlanta Motor Speedway, Richmond Raceway to end off round 2, and then the finale at the Kansas Speedway. Here are your 12 playoff drivers as they enter tonight's race at the Pocono Raceway. 12 drivers enter, only 8 will survive out of round number 1, and then 4 will survive heading into the finale. Now, the points were reset completely to 0 for everybody in the playoffs. However, those drivers that have points earned wins this season: Handwerk 5 wins, Hamilton 3 wins, Thomas and Nickerson 2 wins, McDonald and Foster 1 win, and then Eric Andrews, Andrew Gunther, Wesley Fuller, Matt Crockett, Jimmy Covert, and Paul Butler in on points, so they don't receive any bonus points heading into the start of tonight's playoffs. And those 12 drivers are all going to be fighting for points the entire way through round number 1. Time to take a look at your Racecraft TV starting grid as we get ready for all of tonight's action from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Let's see where they'll line up for tonight's race. Lining up on pole is going to be Carl Handwerk with Eric Andrews to the outside of the first row. Nick Nickerson, who was late into qualifying, comes out in 3rd. So he'll be starting in the inside of row 2 with Jimmy Covert in 4th on the outside of row 2. Paul Butler, Mark Thomas, 2 playoff drivers, share the 3rd row. Kevin Foster, Joshua Kirsch share row 4 with Wesley Fuller and Dave Lohr sharing row 5. Dylan McDonald, Matt Crockett share row 6. And then rounding out your entire starting grid, Derek Sherman, Andrew Gunther, and Joshua Balitter. 15 cars getting ready to take to the green flag from the virtual Pocono Raceway. And here is your iRacing track facts as we take a look at this beautiful racetrack of the Pocono Raceway. Opened in 1971, located in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, 2.5 miles in length, only 3 turns here as well, as opposed to the normal 4 that we're used to seeing in typical NASCAR tracks. But time for these drivers to roll off, and we'll grab a look at your Racecraft TV race analysis for tonight's event. 40 laps on the docket here tonight. Pit window, roughly about 19 to 21 laps. They'll be looking to cut this race roughly in half. 1 fast repair available to all drivers as well if they get damage on their race cars. Field now taking to the racetrack for the pace lap, and they'll head around to the front straightaway and get going. Jordan, obviously we see fast guys all the time here in this series, and we see those championship favorites. Who do you think's going to be walking away with the first win of the playoffs? Do you think it will be a playoff driver? Do you think one of the non-playoff drivers is going to spoil the party?
You know, I'm going to have to go with the man Carl Handwerk in the 18 car because he's got a lot of wins on this season. And, you know, he just is so experienced at these cars, and especially the vintage cars. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can make that happen. But I also want to keep my eye on the two of Nick Nickerson, as he is also a fast one here tonight.
He joined in late as well, was barely able to get in one lap for qualifying, but he was able to do so, to be able to start closer to the front. Didn't exactly get the pole, but close enough there in third. So he'll be starting on the inside of row 2 as we get ready for all of the action to begin here from the virtual Pocono Raceway. The iRacing.com pace car leads them out of turn 3, the final corner here at Pocono, and into the pit lane.
Green flag, green flag.
Here in the virtual Core Vintage Cup Series, we're underway for the virtual Pocono. Around on, looks like the second back straightaway coming out of turn 2, heading down into turn 3. Derek Sherman around. No caution as the leaders will take to the second lap. Here he is coming through turn 2. Not enough on the brakes and slams into the wall, almost slamming in to Andrew Gunther in the 59, a playoff driver there. But a self-spin for Derek Sherman. He enters the pit lane. Have another look here, and it just looks like not enough on the brakes for turn 2. And around he went, resting it to the inside. He was able to keep going, now resting into the pit lane as he pulls into his pit stall. Battle for the lead, though, up front between Eric Andrews and the two of Nick Nickerson. Here he comes down to the inside, looking for the lead. And he's going to grab it as they head through turn 2. A great move for the 2 car. Sorry, heading through turn 3. Back onto the front straightaway to complete lap number 2. Great move for Nick Nickerson there in the 2. Eric Andrews going to fall back to where he originally started in 9th. You saw the 18 of Carl Handwerk get very loose at the start in turn 1. And also, speaking of loose, Joshua Politter around and into the inside pit wall.
Definitely not what the 3 wanted here tonight, as that we're only 3 laps in. So we're going to take a look at a replay of what exactly happened to him. Seemed like he got a little loose coming out of turn 3 and into the pit lane and into the inner wall he goes. Not the night he wanted to have here at Pocono.
And Jordan, we're already seeing these drivers getting loose out there on the racetrack. We saw, like I was mentioning before, Joshua Politter went head on into that pit wall. A very hard hit for him. He'll grab his fast repairs. Luckily, he was already in the pit lane, and there he goes into his pit stall to grab that fast repair. But like I was talking about, Carl Handwerk at the beginning of the race slammed into the wall. Got loose in turn number 1. And he saved it, luckily, but it was very, very close to being a huge wreck with cars immediately coming right behind him. But he was able to save it, so these guys are already getting loose, and it seems like the classic places where we see these drivers get loose, middle to exit, as these vintage cup cars are so difficult to handle, especially around these medium speed to high speed corners.
You know, definitely, and it seems like these cars just want to give out, so you kind of got to be really careful on how you enter and exit corners. But you can see the 38 of Dylan McDonald sitting very nice up in 6th place. Curious to see if he's going to pass. I'm pretty sure that's the 8 of Kevin Foster up ahead of him. So see how he's going to try and make a move up into 5th place. But he's got to be careful because the 68 of Paul Butler is right behind, not letting him get away.
And your playoff drivers at the top of your screen on our timing tower will be denoted by a red background on their number. Gray silver background means that they are a non-playoff driver. And on all of the rest of our overlays, if they are highlighted in red, that means that they are a playoff driver. If they have no highlight on their name at all, that means they are a non-playoff driver. McDonald gets way out of the groove. Here comes the 68 of Paul Butler down to the inside as he looks for P number 6 on the 38, not able to get it, but still battling for that 6th spot. And 3 cars here in this battle for the 5th position here on the racetrack as they battle. Kevin Foster up ahead and trying to catch up to Jimmy Covert, who currently sits in 4th ahead of this group. Down to the inside now goes Paul Butler in the 68. Heading through turn 3. Now, each of the corners on this Pocono Raceway were designed by famous corners around the world. So each of the 3 corners are completely different, not similar in any way, other than the fact that, you know, you have to turn left, but they are very, very different in each of their unique characteristics, which is why this place is called the Tricky Triangle. We're already seeing the tricky part of this course come out as McDonald gets loose and goes right up the track once again. Door not opening enough for Paul Butler behind, though. But the battle for 2nd place is starting to heat up. Carl Handwerk right on the back bumper of the 9 of Eric Andrews, looking for P2.
Interested to see how long it takes for Handwork to make that pass. You can see he's right on the bottom bumper. He's doing his strategy where he always sits behind them and to the left. And to the inside he goes. Handwork is going to be side by side with the 9 of Eric Andrews. And he's going to take over P2, and he's going to go catch up to Nick Nickerson in the 2.
Eric Andrews not done yet. Sits on the outside looking for that spot back on Carl Handwerk. Still side by side as they head into turn number 1. Now, I mentioned that each of these corners are modeled after different corners in the United States and around the world. Turn 1, this one right here, 14 degrees of banking, modeled after the Trenton Speedway, a famous speedway up in Trenton, New Jersey at the New Jersey State Fairgrounds. Turn 2, known as the tunnel turn, which they're coming up to now, 8 degrees of banking here, modeled after the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which you can see the Indy 500 this weekend, Sunday on NBC. And turn 3 that they're coming up to now, 6 degrees of banking, the lowest banking on the course, and it's modeled after the Milwaukee Mile. So each of these 3 corners, completely different characteristics. The car drives completely different in all 3, and that is why this place has been known as the Tricky Triangle for so many years. Nick Nickerson sits up front in the 1st spot. Carl Handwerk, Eric Andrews, Jimmy Covert, and Kevin Foster round out your top 5. As we work lap number 8 of 40, we'll go side by side so you won't miss a minute of the action here on Racecraft TV. You're watching the Core Racing Vintage Cup Series from the virtual Pocono Raceway.
We needed more. More from our bodies.
More from our minds.
So we went on a mission
to study the top level of performance across every competitive playing field.
What fuels the highest level of athletes, businessmen, and gamers.
Through intense trials across every competitive landscape, we found that there were 5 undeniable principles that help your body operate at the highest level of peak performance all the time.
Focus. The ability to visualize and execute with precision. Focus is the single important component when it comes to performance.
Combined multiple choline sources, including alpha GPC tartrate, along with L-tyrosine to help boost mental performance.
Recovery.
We need to take you from 5% to 100% as fast as possible. Bounce back with nourishing BCAAs.
For body and mind. Energy.
Fuel to get the job done. Answer the bell with confidence that you'll be able to attack energy and intensity.
We mix a blend of instant and sustained release caffeine to light a fire with
300 milligrams, go.
Stamina.
The willpower to see it to the end.
But true stamina is coming back day after month after. Rated L to deliver energy on a cellular level, with betaine anhydrous and taurine augmenting those effects.
Hydration. Sports science was built on hydration, and it's no secret why.
That's why we added a blend of electrolytes to help sustain performance. We tried all of the other energy drinks. They may help you stay awake, but not much else. We combined all 5 pillars of performance into one single form.
focus,
recovery,
energy,
stamina.
and hydration. We call it refresh technology.
and it delivers more.
Welcome back to the virtual Pocono Raceway. You're watching the Core Racing Vintage Cup Series live on Racecraft TV. During Racecraft TV side-by-side, you saw this battle brewing between these 5 cars right here. Still brewing in between Kevin Foster and Jimmy Covert. Side-by-side now for 4th place on the racetrack. Down to the inside goes Kevin Foster, playoff driver on. Another playoff driver, Jimmy Covert, and another playoff driver, Paul Butler, sitting right behind, joining the fight. Oh, and loose around goes Dylan McDonald. He saves it coming off of turn 3. Almost lost that number 38, but he keeps it under him. A great save for Dylan McDonald in the 38. Still side by side up in front. It's Kevin Foster versus Jimmy Covert for 4th.
It almost seems like the 14 of Jimmy Covert seems to be stuck on the outside line. Not too sure if he likes it, though, because it almost seems like he's sliding up every single time. So I'm curious to see if he's going to make his way down to about the middle to inside line. But he seems to be running where everyone else is. And there's smoke behind. I'm pretty sure that was the 35 of Wesley Fuller. Saves it as the 68 of Paul Butler is trying to keep up with the 8 and the 14 here at Pocono.
And he looks to the outside as Foster still running the inside. The 14 of Covert now in the middle line. Butler going to fall back in line with the 14 as they drag race down the long front straightaway here at Pocono. Front straightaway so long, planes have landed here on the front straightaway at the Pocono Raceway. That's how you know it is a long front straightaway. Speeds excess of 200 miles per hour as they dive into this corner in the modern day Cup cars. Off of turn 1. Still side by side. Now it's between Paul Butler. Now it's between Jimmy Covert and Paul Butler. Butler on the inside, Covert outside. On that outside line, also joining him, it's Foster and Fuller with Dylan McDonald watching behind. This is the closest battle on the racetrack right now. All 5 of these cars separated by roughly about 0.4 of a second. And all of them playoff drivers at that. All of them fighting for points to be in that top 8 when we eliminate the bottom 4 at the end of the round. Closing in on halfway done with this race and also closing in on green flag pit stops that we're expecting to see in about 7 laps time. Paul Butler back to the inside. Here comes Kevin Foster. Foster going to get the door closed on him, though, by the 68. Butler going to stay on the inside. Still side by side with the 14 of Covert as Covert works the outside line. Butler not able to get a good enough drag down the straightaway to keep up with the 14, and Covert sliding it on the outside. Paul Butler going to wash up the track, almost makes contact with the 14, but Covert stays clear. Kevin Foster now going to drag race down the short chute, get side by side with the 14 as they dive into 3. Still side by side, the 28 and the 14. Foster is the 8 in game, 28 on his car. Covert on the outside line, running the number 14, both in sim and on his car. Outside line looks to be prevailing a little bit down the straightaway, but Foster staying close on the inside. He has help from Wesley Fuller in the 35 behind him. Pocono, not exactly a restrictor plate track. Don't expect pack racing, but the draft can still help as they fan out almost 3 wide. McDonald almost makes contact with the 35 of Fuller. They all keep it straight. We stay green as they race down the straightaway into turn 2. Still side by side up ahead as Paul Butler and Kevin Foster. Foster now clears this group. Here comes Paul Butler in the 68 right behind. Everybody here battling for P4 on the racetrack. Through turn 3 as we enter 26 laps to go. Still side by side, further back now, it's Covert and Wesley Fuller. Covert fell a good bit down through this group. Possibly tires getting a little bit too worn, not able to hold it on the outside line anymore. We'll see as he goes side by side into the corner with Wesley Fuller in the 35. Not able to roll that outside very well. Wesley Fuller tried to roll the inside. Wasn't clear exactly coming off of the corner. Dylan McDonald choosing a lane to go with. Goes with the 14 on the outside as they roar back into turn 2.
It almost seems like that higher line is getting the 14 of Jimmy Covert a little slower than the pack because we saw him up in the front of them, but he's slowly fallen back. But I've also noticed throughout these last few laps that I've only pointed out that the 14 has been sliding tremendously up the track. And you can see a nice little battle here with the 8 of Kevin Foster and the 68 of Paul Butler, as Butler clears him and he's going to get a run on it. And you can just see the 8 car right behind him, and then the other two, the 35 and the 14, as they're diving into turns 1 and 2. And you can see how sideways, Josh, these cars have to get in order to make those turns.
Saw the same thing a week ago at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. These tracks incredibly similar in the term of how they race, and Indy cars go here as well as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and all provide exciting racing in the Indy cars or in these vintage NASCAR Cup cars or the current NASCAR stock cars at that. Fuller loose coming through turn 2. He saves it. But now coming down the straightaway, that's not going to help him in terms of top speed. To the outside comes Kevin Foster in the 28. He's got the 38 of Dylan McDonald right behind. Covert on the inside. 2 by 2 for 2 rows as they work their way out of turn 3. Almost making contact is the 14 and the 38. They keep it off of each other. The 38 right on the back bumper of Kevin Foster, pushing him almost coming down the straightaway. He will give him a nudge as they head back into 1. Fuller still running the inside. Foster trying to get a huge run on the outside. Might be too much of a run. He moves up the track. Has to get out of the gas to avoid hitting the wall. Around goes the 35. Around goes the 38. He'll fall to P7 as Fuller goes up to P5. McDonald up to P6. And Paul Butler has checked out from this field right now, trying to pull away a little bit more from this group. Fuller gets loose at a 2 again. Has to really try to keep it off the wall that time.
You can just see the 68 of Paul Butler. He's completely ran away from both everybody, and we're going to jump back up to the lead. You can see on the screen right now, that's the 18 of Carl Handwerk, and followed behind him is the 9 of Eric Andrews, having a pretty solid battle right now. But Josh, it seems to be that Nickerson has this track down, as he's got a 5-second lead on these two.
5 seconds is that gap as we get ready for green flag pit stops to start their way here at the virtual Pocono Raceway. Eric Andrews got passed by Carl Handwerk a little bit ago, and he has worked his way right back up to the back bumper of the 18. We'll see when these drivers are going to be planning on coming down on a pit road, and we'll also see when if Eric Andrews can make the pass on Carl Handwerk as well. Waiting on the green flag pit stops to commence as we have 23 laps to go, about to be 22 to go when Nickerson comes across the line. He's your current leader. Carl Handwerk, Eric Andrews, Wesley Fuller, Dylan McDonald, your top 5 from the virtual Pocono. Jumping back to this small battle back here. Caution comes out. The yellow flag is out. Not sure anybody's involved in an incident. Doesn't look like it. Could this be a competition caution? It was manually thrown. I believe this is a competition caution. So race control has thrown this caution here, and that's going to throw a bit of a wrench into the green flag pit stops. But at least everybody will get to make them under caution now, because believe under caution, if they go green to the end from this point, they'll be good to the end on fuel. So they can pretty much cut the race in half, maybe give or take a lap, but they should be good to the end on fuel if they come in this time by. And I'm expecting that's what we're going to see from all these lead lap cars. Mark Thomas off the pace a little bit. He is a lap down. Not sure why he's a lap down. So he entered the pit lane a while ago. He entered the pit lane right after Joshua Litter did. I wonder if it was the same incident? No, he already had damage to the front end of his car. Not sure what happened to Mark Thomas. See if we can find out. Oh, he was wrecked down coming off of turn 1, it looks like. This was all the way back, beginning of the race. Like roughly about lap 2 or 3, coming through turn number 1. Gets loose coming off of the corner and slams into the inside wall.
You know, I'm surprised iRacing didn't call that caution because that's a pretty hard hit into the wall. Luckily, didn't take anybody out in it as we're 21 laps to go here at Pocono. And your leader, Nick Nickerson, is going to lead the field as we're under caution, about to go green here in a few laps.
And pit stops should be coming up about this time by. Pit road will be open and ready for these cars to make their way in. And we'll see who's going to come out with the lead once those pit stops are over. If they pit now, they will be good to the end on fuel. So this will be the only stop that these drivers make unless we get another caution. But into the pit lane comes the 2, the 18, and the 9, and everybody else on the lead lap. All of them making their way down into the pit lane. Only cars staying out are the drivers who are lapped down, and it looks like the 10 of Matt Crockett has decided to stay out on the racetrack. But into the pit lane comes everybody else of your lead lap cars, and they'll make their way out of the pit lane here at the virtual Pocono Raceway. Who's going to win the race off pit road? Remember, Nick Nickerson came in as your leader, but he had to pit in the third box, but it looks like he got in incredibly quickly. But coming out first, it's Kevin Foster. Going to make his way out of the pit lane in front of everybody else. Second is going to go to the 2 of Nick Nickerson. Handwork, Fuller, and then Eric Andrews beats Dylan McDonald coming out of pit road for that spot. So Kevin Foster out first in the 28. We'll grab a quick break here on Racecraft TV. More green flag action for the virtual Pocono when we return. Lights out on the iRacing.com pace cars. We welcome you back to the virtual Pocono Raceway here for the Core Racing Vintage Cup Series. First race of round 1 of the playoffs. Joshua Lee, Jordan Hicks joining you here on Racecraft TV for all of tonight's action. And we're getting ready to go back to racing as field works down the first straightaway on the course coming off of turn number 1. Couple of cars electing to make another stop down into the pit lane. Kevin Foster took left side tires, won the race off pit road, and then came back down into the pit lane, so he'll be restarting from 9th. Matt Crockett originally stayed out, came back in. He'll be restarting down in 12th as we get ready to go back to racing. Making their way now through the tunnel turn 2 here at Pocono, tightest corner on the track. And they'll head down into the 6 degrees of banking of turn 3 and get going back under the green flag here from the virtual Pocono. Nick Nickerson will lead the field back to green. Carl Handwerk to the outside. Dylan McDonald, Eric Andrews, Paul Butler, your top 5. As we go on board with Eric Andrews for the restart here at the virtual Pocono. Going back racing with around 18 laps to go. Cars fanning out behind the 9 of Eric Andrews as they work their way through the tunnel turn, but out in front, it's the 2 of Nick Nickerson already getting out to a great lead over Carl Handwerk as he tries to chase him down.
You can see this is going to be an interesting battle to see if Handwerk can make up ground to get right behind the 2 of Nick Nickerson. But you can also see followed behind them is the 9 of Eric Andrews, so he's staying in the picture of them too. And you can see they're all spread out pretty well, about a half of a second around their lead for Nick Nickerson in the 2 against the 18. As these 3 are coming to the backstretch, all spaced out pretty evenly on the backstretch.
You can see the gap getting a little bit closer, not close enough to make a pass though, as Carl Handwerk as we go on board. Trying to run down right on that apron of the racetrack. Comes back up. Gets a good run coming down the straightaway heading into turn 3, but not a good enough run to make the move happen. Falls to about 0.2 of a second now in between your first and second place cars. Eric Andrews trying to catch up from third. They head back down the front straightaway. Absolutely nothing for Handwerk to do, and falling back slightly now. So we'll see if the gap is going to close. Heading down into turn number 1. Couple of cars battling further back. It looks like Foster, McDonald, Fuller, and Covert back in their battle of about 4 to 5 cars, and a huge run further behind for Derek Sherman, who wrecked on the first lap, is currently 1 lap down, but trying to run up with the leaders. Battle going on between Fuller and Covert. Covert sends it into turn 2, sliding through, but he is able to have it stick. Gets a great run coming off of the corner, able to clear the 35 of Wesley Fuller as they work back down the straightaway into turn 3. Fuller trying to close the gap a little bit. Here comes Kevin Foster also trying to close the gap, and here comes Dylan McDonald getting loose off of turn 3 once again. He saves it. Here comes Foster now to the inside. He looks for 6th place. Now going down to the inside for 5th on Jimmy Covert. Covert outside. Foster inside as they work off the corner. Side by side between Covert and Foster. Fuller sitting behind, watching, waiting for one of these cars to make a mistake or waiting for an opportunity to take it 3 wide. He won't take it 3 wide, pushing Kevin Foster into turn 2.
And the 35 gets a little bit loose right there. He saves it, but he loses a little bit of ground from the 8 and the 14, so he's going to have to try again. As you can see, the 8 just got a completely fast run, and the 35 is not done with them yet, as he is side by side in turn number 3 with Dylan McDonald in the 38.
Still running about side by side is the 38 and the 35 as they work back down the straightaway. Jimmy Covert now pulling away a little bit. Kevin Foster pulling away the most out of anybody in this group. Up to about 0.3 now, separating himself in 6th place, Jimmy Covert. Up front, the gap growing even more between your 2 leaders. Nickerson now with a lead of about 0.8 of a second, about 0.9 now, as they work their way down the Long Pond straightaway and into turn 2. Great day so far for the two, but with 14 laps to go, still needs to hold on if he wants to walk away a winner and lock himself into the next round of the playoffs. And that will be oh so important when it comes to the playoffs to lock yourself into the next round. Fuller going down to the inside of Covert, not able to make a move. McDonald slams the wall, slams the inside wall, a huge wreck on the front straightaway. He's going to be stopped, and the caution comes out, the first for a wreck tonight.
Definitely not what McDonald wanted here tonight, as that was a big one here tonight, and you can see a replay. He gets loose by hitting the wall in turn 3 and into the inside wall. He goes, and around he goes. That, Josh, is probably the big one we have had tonight. You can see an onboard view of that. Gets a little bit into the wall and right into the wall, and you can see that hood almost wanting to fly off that 38 car.
The hardest wreck we have had tonight for sure from the 38 of Dylan McDonald. At least the good part is that he is sitting there on pit road. He can grab a fast repair, but he will need to get it towed back to the pit lane in the meantime. 12 laps to go as we are back under the yellow flag here from the virtual Pocono Raceway. This is the first natural yellow flag we have had tonight. First one was a competition caution to bunch the field back up at about halfway, get the pit stops over with. And now, Jordan, that we have run roughly about 8 laps or so under the green flag and we're back under the yellow, do you think we're going to expect to see a lot of cars come down pit road, or do you think now might be the time for a handful of drivers to stay out on the racetrack, try and grab some track position, or are tires going to be that important?
You know, from what it seems, these cars can get loose really, really easily, so I'm expecting, if not maybe quarter of the field to come down pit lane, because if it was me, I'd want the most amount of traction I could get like possible. And so if I were them, I would go down pit lane as we're on the final 10 laps to go here at Pocono. But I guess whatever happens, happens, and it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Still working under the pace cars. They will make their way into the pit lane this time by. Curious to see exactly what is going to happen. Here comes your leader, the 2, Nick Nickerson. Carl Handwerk behind. Eric Andrews behind him. Into the pit lane comes the 2. The 18 decides last minute to come in. The 9 decides last minute to stay out. Eric Andrews stays on the racetrack. He's going to be the only leader stuck on the racetrack. Jordan, that is the opposite of what Eric Andrews wanted. He wanted to stay out if there's a good amount staying out. Now that he's the only lead lap car staying out, he's a sitting duck coming to this restart.
You know, definitely, and now this is gonna lead for him and needing to battle the hardest he probably ever has needed to, because a lot of these drivers are gonna have fresh new tires, and he's gonna be running on tires that we had from the previous time he pitted, so he's gonna have to really, really work if he wants to stay up in P1. But I guarantee within the first few laps, everybody's gonna pass him, including the 2 car of Nick Nickerson to get his position back, followed by the 18.
We'll have to see what happens on the restart. You're tuning in to Racecraft TV's coverage of the Core Racing Vintage Cup Series, live from iRacing's virtual Pocono Raceway. We'll be right back after this short break with the restart here in the first race of round 1 of the playoffs.
We needed more.
More from our bodies.
More from our minds.
So we went on a mission.
To study the top level of performance across every competitive playing field.
To find what fuels the highest level of athletes, businessmen, and gamers.
Through intense trials across every competitive landscape, we found that there were 5 undeniable principles that help your body operate at the highest level of peak performance all the time.
Focus. The ability to visualize and execute with precision. Focus is the single most important component when it comes to performance.
We combined multiple choline sources, including alpha GPC, choline bitartrate, along with L-tyrosine to help boost mental performance.
Recovery.
We need to take you from 5% to 100% as fast as possible. Bounce back with nourishing BCAAs.
For body and mind. Energy.
Fuel to get the job done. Answer the bell with confidence that you'll be able to attack with energy and intensity.
We mix a blend of instant and sustained release caffeine to light a fire with
300 milligrams of GO.
stamina.
The willpower to see it to the end. But true stamina is coming back day after month after year. We incorporated L-carnitine to deliver energy on a cellular level, with betaine anhydrous and taurine augmenting those effects.
Hydration. Sports science was built on hydration, and it's no secret why.
That's why we added a blend of electrolytes to help sustain performance. We tried all of the other energy drinks. They may help you stay awake, but not much else. We combined all 5 pillars of performance into one single form:
Focus.
Recovery.
energy,
Stamina.
and hydration. We call it refresh technology.
And it delivers more.
Welcome back to the virtual Pocono Raceway, here for the Core Racing Vintage Cup Series Round 1, Race 1 of the playoffs for the season. Currently working lap number 31 of 40, 10 laps to go here in tonight's race, and we'll be going back to racing with 9 to go. Now, single file restart here, and you see that 38 of them, Dylan McDonald on the inside. He towed back to the pit lane, grabbed his fast repair, and back out on the racetrack, but he is 1 lap down, so he'll be starting on the inside line, not racing any of these lead lap cars up in front. Eric Andrews, after staying out on that pit stop, will take the field to green. The 18 of Carl Handwerk won the race off pit road. He'll start in second. Nickerson, Foster, and Fuller, your top 5s. We go on board with Nick Nickerson on the restart. And Handwerk almost able to turn that car around, but he keeps it. Another almost wreck for the 18 of Carl Handwerk. Jordan, turn 1 and turn 3 seem to be biting all of these drivers right now, and turn 2 at that. All turns are biting these drivers right now on exit.
And, you know, definitely like we were talking about earlier in this race, this track has 3 different turns, and so I'm curious to know if these drivers are getting a little too comfortable and completely forgetting about that and trying to just slide it right in that turn. But you can see the 18 has a run right here as the 2, I think, is being not blocked, but he's right up there on the bumper of the 9 of Eric Andrews as he's going to try and put it in to the inside line. And he had a run of a lifetime right there. And he takes over P1 very, very easily. And you can see the 18 is following him, and this is where the 9 is going to slowly, his top 3 is going to slowly come to an end, because depending on how everyone takes it, they've got all fresh tires, and he doesn't. So I'm curious to see how long he's going to fight for that 3rd place spot.
He's got about 5/10 to fall back now in between him and Kevin Foster in 4th place. But taking a look, down at the bottom for the lead, 3/10 separating the 2 and the 18 with 8 laps to go. And we'll see who will walk away with the win tonight. It's been all the 2 of Nick Nickerson for most of the night. Can he continue that here on the racetrack at the virtual Pocono Raceway? 7 laps to go, as your top 2 currently separated by about 4/10 of a second. Looking back a little bit, battle between the 14 and the 10. Matt Crockett and Jimmy Covert, 2 playoff drivers battling for P7 on the racetrack. Crockett gonna fall back a good bit. Falling back on the 14 of Jimmy Covert. 2 playoff drivers there battling for P7. Here comes the 10 back to the outside. Not able to get close enough, it looks like. Battle up front looks like between Foster and Fuller, with the 38 of Dylan McDonald in between the two. Fuller goes down to the inside of Dylan McDonald, the 38, 1 lap down currently on the racetrack, not racing these lead lap cars. Fuller having a bit of trouble trying to get around him as well. They race back through turns 2. Paul Butler watching in the wings as well, another playoff driver. Your top 9 is all completely playoff drivers. Top 10 has 9 playoff drivers in it, as 10th place is Derek Sherman, then is Joshua Kirsch, Dave Lohr, Dylan McDonald, and Andrew Gunther, the 2 playoff drivers who have had the worst days. Dylan McDonald 1 lap down, 15 laps down is Andrew Gunther. And in last place, Joshua Butler pulled it into the pit lane in 15th on lap number 2. He started this race on a laptop, as I believe he is currently traveling at the moment. So, Jordan, when he's using a platform that he's not used to, obviously laptop's much smaller screen, didn't feel confident that he could have a good race or that he could keep it clean around other drivers, so he brought it into the pit lane. That's some good sportsmanship there to make sure he doesn't ruin not only other drivers' races, but playoff drivers' races as well.
And you know, definitely, when you switch where you're racing, you got to get used to it to a point where you feel like you're good enough to actually be up with the racers. And so, like you mentioned, he got off the track, so a good move right there. But previously, a little bit back, we saw the 18 car of Carl Handwerk get a little loose, and you can see that gap, which is about 9/10 with the 2 car of Nick Nickerson, almost about a second. And it seems like we've got some smoke in the back, and it seems to be Matt Crockett. It's interesting to see what happens.
We stay green as he went way down into the apron. Believe the same issue that we've seen before, and same thing as Joshua Bolitter, right down into the pit wall. Didn't hit it as hard though, and he went into the grass. He was able to get it out of the grass as well. There's another replay. And there goes Matt Crockett down into the apron. No caution here, so still staying green and still your leader. It's the 2 of Nick Nickerson out in front. He'll grab 3 laps to go here. And Joshua Kirsch around on the Long Pond straightaway coming out of turn 1. Still no caution. So this also did not bring out a caution. Dylan McDonald, I believe, also might be having an issue. Here's the issue for Joshua Kirsch. Hard into the wall. Same issue we saw with Mark Thomas earlier. It looks like Joshua Kirsch might have crashed again. Or he brought it to a stop, and yeah, I believe he definitely brought it into a stop right against the wall and towed it back. Let's see what happened to Dylan McDonald here. He got into an incident as well. Not sure where Dylan McDonald's incident started. Looks like it was coming out of turn 2. Yes, it was. So he got loose all the way through turn 2. He was chasing that car all the way through the corner. Sideways, tried to save it, overcorrects, hard into the wall. He doesn't get turned, he keeps it straight, but a hard hit for Dylan McDonald on the inside. He pulled into the pit lane as well. 2 laps to go now here at the virtual Pocono Raceway. Battle further back. This is the battle where we were the most interested in seeing. Eric Andrews falling back as he did not pit under that last caution. He last pitted on lap 20. Everybody else pitted on lap number 29. And he's still able to keep that 3rd place spot. Jordan not falling back too much as he's now in a battle with Kevin Foster and pulling away slightly.
You know, definitely, and it's interesting to see because he's running on old tires, and so you would think Foster would be ahead of him, but you know, the 9's putting up a good fight right now to keep his position up in the top 5, but you know, the 8 is trying to find a way to pass him, but he seems to be still pulling away as we go up to the leader, which is the 2 of Nick Nickerson, as he's got a 1.7 second lead on Carl Handwerk. 1.8 seconds now. And so I'm keeping my eye on him as we are on the white flag here at Pocono.
1 to go from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Off of turn number 1, it was a pretty much perfect race for the 2, and he needed a perfect race as well to lock himself into the round 2 of the playoffs. Down the Wampon straightaway, battle between Eric Andrews and Kevin Foster. Gonna reach an end here at the start-finish line through turn 2. Andrews able to keep that spot in third. Foster looking for it as they make their way down the straightaway. But now heading through turn 3 and back to the front straightaway. Checkered flag gonna be in the air for Nick Nickerson. Grabs the first win of the playoffs, locks himself into round 2. And Andrews will keep the spot on Foster with a drag race coming to the line. But your winner and locking himself into round 2 of the playoffs, Nick Nickerson in the 2. And a great drive all day from the 2. And he needed it as well, Jordan. He doesn't need to worry about any of the races coming up now for the next 2. Just when we start round 2, that's when he's going to need to start worrying again. But he locks himself in. What a fantastic race from Nick.
You know, definitely. And Josh, before this race, we didn't even think he was going to come. And turns out he came out victorious. And so another victory adding to the 2 car of Nick Nickerson. A huge congratulations as you can see him drifting in the grass and getting all over the place. A big win for the 2 car here tonight.
And he is going to burn it down on the front straightaway. The 2 of Nick Nickerson locks himself into round 2 of the playoffs with a win for the virtual Pocono. Let's grab a look at your full race results here on Racecraft TV. A wonderful race from the virtual Pocono. 2 cautions on the night, 1 manual caution, 1 for an incident on the racetrack. Nick Nickerson with a great win grabs the win here at the virtual Pocono. Carl Handwerk in second place. Eric Andrews, Kevin Foster, Wesley Fuller, your top 5. Paul Butler, Jimmy Covert, Mark Thomas, Derek Sherman, Matt Crockett rounds out your top 10. Dave Lord, Joshua Kirsch, Dylan McDonald, Andrew Gunther, and Joshua Balitter rounds out the 15 cars who took the green flag here from the virtual Pocono Raceway. The Demolition Derby happens on the front straightaway. We'll look to grab your winner of tonight's race for the post-race show. That being the 2 of Nick Nickerson. A fantastic win for the 2 and a much-needed one at that. And he's waiting in the interview waiting area. We'll grab him in here now to the Racecraft TV commentary box. Nick Nickerson in the 2. Welcome to the Racecraft TV commentary booth. Congratulations on your win from the virtual Pocono. How difficult was it to get that one, especially with it being the first race of the playoffs?
Hey, man, it wasn't too bad. Pocono's kind of one of those tracks that just kind of clicks with me. I don't know if it's just because of the turns are more like oriented kind of like a road course turn is, more than like your traditional oval. But yeah, man, I was just cruising the whole time, and I'm glad I at least got it done for the first race of the playoff there. So I don't really have to worry about the next couple races. But all in all, it was a good night.
And locking yourself into round 2 is huge now. You don't have to worry about those next 2 races, but obviously still wanting to grab those wins. But now that you don't have to worry about them, are you going to set more of a focus now on round 2 of the playoffs, or are you just going to be still taking it race by race and focusing on the next 2?
No, man, I'm just going out to win every race I can. There's no strategy involved.
And now, of course, going into the next race, we'll be making our way over to the Phoenix Raceway. is slightly similar to Pocono, more of a short track, however, versus this super speedway type track of Pocono. How confident are you heading into Phoenix that you can walk away 2 in a row and the only winner in the playoffs?
Man, it's a hometown track. I love that track, so hopefully I got something for it. But I think it's going to be a track that comes down to tire management and possibly just race strategy. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Anybody else you would like to thank here on Racecraft TV?
Man, just Carl and everybody that puts on this league, everybody that participates, and I appreciate you guys for putting on the broadcast.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. That is your winner on the night, the 2-car of Nick Nickerson. And a great night for him from the virtual Pocono Raceway. And as we make sure that we have all of the points correct before we let you know exactly where we sit here in the points for the Core Racing Vintage Cup Series. Jordan, a great night here from Pocono. Not a lot of cautions, a lot of green flag action, and we really got to see a lot of the playoff drivers in race conditions, and a lot of them were competing really well tonight, but a couple of them, mainly Matt Crockett, Dylan McDonald, and Andrew Gunther, having off nights tonight. They're going to need to pick it up because with only 2 races left, they're going to be in the bottom 4.
You know, definitely, but what a great start to the playoffs for the 2 of Nick Nickerson, as he gets to sit back and gain some more points in round 2, but, you know, what a great night to open up the playoffs here. I was definitely glad to be a part of it and can't wait to watch some more.
And you heard, of course, the 2 of Nick Nickerson say that he's going out to win every race. Do you think he has an opportunity to go back-to-back next week at Phoenix?
It's scary to say, but 110%, because you can throw him in any single car. But even though we're in the Vintage Cup Series, Nick Nickerson can literally do anything.
And now we'll grab a look at those points updated for post-race here at the Pocono Raceway. After today, you can see Handwork is going to still keep the points lead. However, Nickerson is locked in with that win. So even though he sits in second place, he's locked in, doesn't have to worry. Your bottom 4, Matt Crockett, Dylan McDonald, Andrew Gunther, and Chris Hamilton. Unfortunately, Chris Hamilton did not show tonight, so he is already going to be in a must-win situation heading into Phoenix and New Hampshire. But that's going to do it for us here on Racecraft TV. We thank you for tuning in here from the virtual Pocono Raceway, and make sure to tune in 1 week's time when we continue the campaign to crown a champion in the Core Racing League Vintage Cup Series. For Jordan Hicks, I'm Joshua Lee. Thank you for tuning in on Racecraft TV, and we hope to see you in 1 week's time from the virtual Phoenix for the next race of the playoffs.